In April 2011, the serene town of Dody, Tennessee, was forever altered by the mysterious disappearance of a promising young nursing student, Holly Lynn Bobo. This tragic event marked the inception of a relentless quest for truth and justice that would unfold over the years. Born on October 12, 1990, Holly was nurtured in a warm and supportive family environment where her aspirations flourished. At just 20 years old, she was diligently pursuing her nursing degree at the University of Tennessee at Martin Parson Center, driven by a profound desire to impact the healthcare field positively. Living with her parents and brother, Holly was often described by friends as a gentle and reserved soul. Adding a unique dimension to her life, she was also the cousin of renowned country singer Whitney Duncan. On the fateful morning of April 13, 2011, Holly rose early at 4:30 a.m. to prepare for an impending exam. By 7:30 a.m., she engaged in a conversation with her boyfriend, Drew Scott, who was turkey hunting on her grandmother's land. At that time, her parents had already departed for work, leaving her brother, Clint, still in slumber. Merely 12 minutes later, Holly made her last cell phone call, after which all attempts to reach her went unanswered, igniting a wave of anxiety among her loved ones. Shortly after this final communication, a neighbor reported hearing a chilling scream emanating from the Bobo home. The neighbor promptly alerted Holly's mother, Karen, who was at work, about the unsettling noise. In a state of rising concern, Karen attempted to contact Holly, but her calls went unanswered. Meanwhile, Clint was roused from sleep by the family dogs barking and ventured outside, where he spotted a man clad in camouflage. Initially mistaking him for Drew, Clint observed a tense exchange between Holly and the stranger in the garage. Noticing Holly's distress and the man's dominating presence in the conversation, Clint began to suspect that a serious conflict was unfolding. As the situation intensified, Karen called home once more, warning Clint that the man was not Drew and urging him to arm himself. Clint remained steadfast in his belief that the individual in question was indeed his sister's boyfriend. In a desperate bid to notify the authorities, Karen dialed 911, only to inadvertently connect with a dispatcher from a different county due to her workplace location. Peering outside once more, Clint observed the man escorting Holly into the nearby woods, and it struck him that this man was significantly larger than Drew, intensifying his unease. Despite his efforts to reach both Holly and Drew via their cell phones, he was met with silence. Recognizing the seriousness of the situation, Clint ultimately followed his mother's advice and called 911. After retrieving a loaded pistol, he ventured outside where he stumbled upon bloodstains potentially belonging to Holly in the garage. He promptly dialed 911 again, and within a mere 10 minutes the police arrived at the Bobo residence, spurred by Clint's urgent communications. As the investigation unfolded, cell phone pings revealed that Holly's phone was moving away from her home tower, heading northward. The last recorded ping indicated it was traveling toward a wooded area near Interstate 40. For approximately 20 to 30 minutes, Holly's cell phone remained stationary before it began to move southward via an alternate route. The investigation soon uncovered that the final ping originated from the very area where both the phone and its SIM card would later be discovered. This pivotal evidence laid the groundwork for an extensive search for Holly and raised profound concerns regarding her fate, prompting investigators to delve into the tragic circumstances surrounding her disappearance. In a state of hysteria, Karen's friend drove her home, whereupon she immediately dashed into the woods, calling out for her daughter, but to no avail. Meanwhile, Karen's husband, Dana Bobo, hurried home, and neighbors, along with law enforcement, converged on their residence, scouring the vicinity for any clues. Clint noted that suspicion quickly shifted toward him as the police requested he remove his shirt to inspect for scratches or any signs indicating he had ventured into the woods with her. Clint expressed his astonishment at being scrutinized, stating, "It seems so obvious to me. If I am present and Holly is elsewhere, then I am clearly not involved." Authorities had harbored suspicions about Clint for some time, alleging that his account of the events that morning had shifted. However, Clint maintained that he was merely attempting to recall as many details as he could. He did provide a description of the man he had observed with his sister, noting that the individual stood between 5 feet 10 and 6 feet tall, with a weight estimated at 180 to 200 pounds. Clint remarked on the man's dark hair, which peeked out from under his cap, long enough to graze his collar. Dressed entirely in camouflage, Clint identified the pattern as either mossy oak breakup or leafy wear. He also remembered the man's voice, describing it as deep and resonant, which only intensified the unsettling nature of his memories. In the aftermath of Holly's disappearance, extensive searches were initiated in the vicinity, aimed at uncovering any clues that might lead to her location. Numerous personal items belonging to Holly were discovered, scattered throughout the town, including her lunchbox, a receipt bearing her name, a school card, and both her cell phone and the removed SIM card. The finding of these possessions heightened concerns for her safety and emphasized the urgency of the investigation. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation swiftly turned its attention to a registered offender named Terry Britt, who fit the description provided by Clint. Britt's residence was subjected to wiretaps and thorough searches during the inquiry. However, despite the intense scrutiny, he was never charged in connection with Holly's case. This absence of definitive evidence left investigators in a state of frustration as they endeavored to unravel the enigma surrounding her disappearance. In September 2014, nearly 3 years after her mysterious disappearance, ginseng foragers stumbled upon a harrowing scene in a secluded woodland of northern Decatur County, Tennessee, conveniently located just off Interstate 40 and approximately 20 miles from Dody. The landowner noted that it was not uncommon for individuals to trespass for hunting, raising unsettling questions about how the remains had eluded discovery for such an extended period. Upon thorough investigation, authorities unearthed critical remains, including Holly's skull, teeth, several ribs, and a shoulder blade. Tragically, the skull bore a bullet wound at the back, with the trajectory suggesting it had exited through her left cheekbone. This chilling revelation confirmed the darkest fears of her family and investigators, prompting the case to shift into a murder inquiry. 6 individuals were apprehended in connection with Holly's murder, yet only 3 were brought to trial. The majority of the arrests stemmed from a confession by John Dylan Adams, a man with an intellectual disability, who alleged he had witnessed Holly with his brother, Zach, and their acquaintance, Jason Autry, shortly after her abduction. Dylan, Zach, and Jason faced charges of especially aggravated kidnapping, first-degree murder, and assault. Among the remaining 3 arrested, 2 had their charges dismissed, while 1 tragically took his own life before facing any legal repercussions. The investigation encountered considerable obstacles, including the death of 1 suspect, shifts in the prosecutorial team, and conflicts with the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. The prosecution faced scrutiny for its failure to present crucial evidence, missing discovery deadlines, and frequently altering charges without clear justification. Tensions escalated to such an extent that the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation withdrew its support after the prosecutor accused the agency of jeopardizing the case. Defense attorneys disclosed that they had not received vital case information more than a year post-arrests, leading to motions for dismissal due to a lack of transparency. In July 2015, the defendants finally obtained access to the evidence that had been gathered against them. On September 22, 2017, a jury rendered a verdict of guilty for Zach, convicting him of first-degree murder, which led to a life sentence plus an additional 50 years, an outcome he asserts is profoundly unjust. During the sentencing phase, Karen Bobo seized the opportunity to address both the jurors and Zach Adams directly, insisting he look upon her. She expressed her conviction, stating, "I firmly believe she fought valiantly for her life, and in her final moments, she likely pleaded for mercy. We extended mercy to him, yet I am certain my daughter begged for her life, and he showed her none." In January 2018, Dylan entered an Alford plea, resulting in a 35-year sentence. Meanwhile, Jason accepted a plea deal to testify against Zach, which culminated in his release on September 16, 2020, after serving 8 years. Jason recounted, "It sounded like boom, boom, boom underneath that bridge. There was just one shot, but it echoed. Birds scattered everywhere beneath that bridge, and then there was a moment of silence." Following his release, Jason retracted his testimony against Zach, claiming he had adjusted his statements in light of newly surfaced evidence. In January 2024, Zach submitted a petition to overturn his conviction based on this recantation, which is currently under review. Holly's parents poignantly remarked, "The world will forever miss one of the sweetest souls I have ever known. A part of us feels eternally absent, and I believe it will always remain that way." Dorothy Silzel, affectionately known as Dody, was the cherished youngest of 9 siblings, raised in the charming town of Mandan, North Dakota. Her endearing nature made her a favorite among her nieces and nephews, as she delighted in gifting them Barbie doll clothes for their imaginative play. After completing her high school education in North Dakota, Dody embarked on a brief career with a local school district before making the significant move to Washington State in 1980. At the age of 30, she had recently acquired a stylish condominium in Kent, just south of Seattle. Dody thrived in her role as a training supervisor at Boeing and dedicated her time as a devoted volunteer for the Special Olympics. On February 26, 1980, the Kent police were summoned to Doty's residence on 106th Avenue Southeast for a welfare check, accompanied by a family friend. This visit was prompted by Doty's unusual absence from work for 2 consecutive days without prior notice, a behavior that alarmed both her colleagues and family. Upon arrival, they found her front door securely locked, yet 3 newspapers lay untouched at the threshold. Investigating further, they discovered the rear sliding glass door was ajar, with the curtains drawn, revealing a 16 to 18-inch gap. Subsequent forensic analysis revealed that the screws securing the locking mechanism were loose, facilitating the door's opening. Tragically, inside they uncovered Doty's lifeless body on the 2nd floor, her nude form resting on the floor. A brown bathrobe was tightly bound around her lower left arm and hand. The King County medical examiner later confirmed that Dody had been strangled and had also endured blunt force trauma to the head. Signs of lividity indicated that she had been deceased for a considerable time before her body was found. The last sighting of Dody occurred 3 days prior, on February 23rd, as she departed Gaetano's Pizza shortly after 10 p.m. Dody was employed full-time at Boeing while also taking on a part-time role as a waitress at a local pizza establishment. Authorities suspect that she was murdered on the 23rd, shortly after returning home from her shift. The autopsy revealed that Dody had been sexually assaulted, with semen found on her body and various swabs collected from both her and her bathrobe. The evidence was preserved effectively, which ultimately facilitated the resolution of the case due to advancements in technology over the years. The Washington State Police Crime Lab initiated a search for DNA evidence in Doty's case in 1996, but it wasn't until 2002 that the necessary technology became available to create a DNA profile for entry into the combined DNA index system, where no matches were found. In 2015, Dody's family reached out to Sergeant Tim Ford, a supervisor in the Kent Police Major Crimes Unit, seeking assistance in resolving her case. Sergeant Ford took on the investigation with a strong commitment to finding answers. Although his assignments changed over the years, he consistently carried the box of files related to Doty's case. Despite planning to retire in March 2024, he continued his work as Doty's murder remained unresolved. Eventually, he was able to secure an arrest warrant in connection with the case shortly after postponing his retirement. On August 20th, 2024, 65-year-old Kenneth Dwayne Kundert was arrested at his home in rural Clinton, Arkansas, and charged with first-degree murder related to Doty's case. Kundert was identified through genetic genealogy efforts. In March 2022, senior forensic genealogist Misty Gillis began the process of locating relatives of the DNA contributor from the crime scene at Sergeant Ford's request. Utilizing the GED match and family tree DNA databases, she successfully identified 11 potential suspects, all of whom were first cousins. The police then commenced investigations into these individuals to determine who had left their DNA at the scene. In the intricate tapestry of this case, 2 of the 11 individuals involved were brothers, Kurt and Kenneth Kundert. The Kent police initiated their inquiry into the pair in September 2023, at which point both siblings were detained in Arkansas for an unrelated assault charge. The Arkansas Sheriff's Office graciously consented to assist in conducting interviews and procuring voluntary DNA samples from the brothers. Kurt willingly provided his DNA, while Kenneth declined. Subsequent testing revealed that Kurt's DNA did not correspond with that found at the crime scene. During the interrogation, detectives observed Kenneth's peculiar habit of smoking, as he would stash his used cigarette butts in his pocket instead of discarding them properly. Kenneth Kundert's lifestyle was marked by erratic behavior, complicating efforts to establish his whereabouts during the time of Doty's murder. Employment records indicated that Kenneth had worked in Seattle and Snohomish County in 1987, yet documentation from prior years was inaccessible. Investigators uncovered that Kenneth resided with his brother Kurt in an apartment merely 1,200 feet from Doty's condominium at the time of her tragic demise. On March 22, 2024, detectives from Kent Police traveled to Arkansas to surveil Kenneth Kundert. They observed him smoking an all-white cigarette in his truck, parked at a Walmart, disposing of the butt in a receptacle outside the store. Upon finishing, the detectives collected the contents of this receptacle and analyzed the 3 all-white cigarette butts discovered, leading to a DNA profile that matched the evidence from the crime scene. This pivotal match enabled investigators to secure a warrant for Kenneth's arrest and to obtain a formal DNA sample. Kundert has a history of misdemeanor convictions and arrests across 4 states, with his bail set at a staggering $3 million. Initially contesting his extradition to Washington state, he has since relinquished that right. On the 25th of August, 2024, an intimate assembly of over 20 of Doty's cherished family members convened at her final resting place in Washington state. Their hearts united in remembrance, they expressed profound gratitude for the diligent efforts of the Kent Police Department, with particular acknowledgement of the exemplary service rendered by Sergeant Ford. This poignant gathering took place in anticipation of the press conference scheduled for the 28th, where the momentous announcement of Kundert's arrest was unveiled. On the 15th of December, 1996, law enforcement officials arrived at 6700 US 41 North in Palmetto, Florida, where they discovered a lifeless body floating face down in a drainage canal. The divers successfully retrieved the remains of an unidentified Caucasian female, adorned with a gold ring on her right index finger. The medical examiner present noted visible trauma to the right side of her neck and face. An autopsy later revealed that the victim had suffered a staggering 83 stab wounds across her body. Furthermore, the report indicated that there was no water in her lungs, nor any signs of a struggle. The identity of the deceased remained a mystery until May 22, 1997, when dental records confirmed her as Doris Coral. Unbeknownst to the detectives, the St. Petersburg Police Department had been actively searching for 45-year-old Doris, who resided with her boyfriend, Stephen Ford, in a duplex on 92nd Avenue North, St. Petersburg. Her daughter, living in Maryland, had reported her missing on December 11, 1996, after Stephen reached out to inquire if she had seen her mother. He claimed that Doris had left in her car for shopping following an argument. On December 18th, detectives located Doris's red Mazda RX-7 at the Pella Square Mall, but found no evidence of a struggle or attack within the vehicle. A few days after her disappearance was reported, detectives revisited the home shared by Doris and Stephen, where they detected a foul odor emanating from the residence. They also uncovered stains on the bedding and mattress that had not been present during the initial search. A poignant note addressed to Stephen's two sons was discovered, expressing his desire to be with Doris, who he implied was no longer alive. Additionally, opened Christmas gifts were found scattered about. Stephen maintained his innocence regarding her disappearance and death. When detectives inquired about his thoughts on the fate of the individual responsible for her demise, he paused significantly before responding, "An eye for an eye." He further stated, "If I took her life, I should receive the ultimate penalty." On December 24, 1996, detectives returned to Stephen's residence for a follow-up interview. In the absence of a response at the door, they gained entry through an unlatched window, discovering him in a semi-conscious state, foaming at the mouth. He had ingested bleach in a desperate attempt to end his life. On January 5, 1997, detectives from St. Petersburg interviewed Stephen's former girlfriend, uncovering a letter he had sent in October of the previous year, which contained the chilling words, "I hope she gets the message that I do not want her here anymore." Unfortunately, the investigation soon stagnated due to insufficient physical evidence and leads, prompting Stephen to relocate to Delaware. In 2017, a cold case detective reignited the investigation, meticulously reviewing files from both the Manatee and St. Petersburg police departments. Over the ensuing 6 years, new revelations emerged. Acquaintances of Doris disclosed that the couple was entangled in domestic and financial strife, with Doris expressing fear of Stephen. In July 2024, DNA swabs collected from Doris's autopsy were dispatched for analysis. On August 12, 2024, detectives were informed that no foreign DNA profiles had been detected, casting doubt on the possibility of an assault during her tragic demise. Further DNA testing revealed that a mysterious stain on the bed was, in fact, Stephen's bodily fluids, linked to his suicide attempt. Detectives surmised that he had parked Doris's car at Pella Square Mall and meticulously cleaned it. They also discovered that he had rented a storage unit the day after Doris's disappearance, transferring her jewelry, clothing, and photographs to prevent her daughter from claiming them. The cold case detectives noted a distinct pattern of guilt in his actions. Stephen's deliberate attempts to mislead investigators, coupled with his suicide attempt, led them to conclude that he was responsible for Doris's death and the concealment of her body in Manatee County. On August 16, 2024, with the assistance of the Delaware State Police, Stephen was apprehended during a traffic stop near his residence in Georgetown, Delaware. On August 30th, he was extradited and processed at the Manatee County Jail. According to the Office of Florida Attorney General Ashley Moody, Stephen lamented that his past has returned to haunt him following his arrest. Laura Gaddy, the daughter of Doris, remarked, "He was the primary suspect." Detectives meticulously pieced together the evidence until they were confident enough to proceed with an arrest. Regarding the forthcoming court proceedings, Laura expressed, "I anticipate discovering new information that I am currently unaware of, and I will have the opportunity to pose the questions that weigh on my mind. Inquiries she hopes will be addressed during Stephen Ford's trial." She added, "I want to understand why he committed the act, the weapon he chose, his motives, and what led him to dispose of her body.